For decades, the story's been pretty simple, right? You have China, the unstoppable economic dragon, and then you have India, the rising power, always brimming with potential. But what if that whole narrative is starting to shift right now, right under our noses? What if the hidden data is pointing to something different? Okay, so let's really get into this. The question isn't just about who's bigger today. That's kind of obvious. The real question is about the future. Where are these two giants actually heading? We're going to look past all the headlines and dig into the core drivers, the people, the economic engines, and of course, the whole global geopolitical game. So first things first, let's just ground ourselves in reality. This is the scoreboard as it stands today. China's economy is a nearly $19 trillion behemoth. It absolutely dwarfs India's, which is sitting at around $4 trillion. I mean, that's the sheer scale of it. But as we're about to see, today's scoreboard doesn't always predict tomorrow's winner. And where this whole story really gets interesting, well, it starts with the people. The human capital, right? The folks who actually power an economy. For both India and China, their massive populations are a defining feature, but they're heading in two completely different directions. And this slide, well, it tells two very, very different stories. On one side, you've got China, staring down the barrel of a demographic time bomb. The legacy of the one-child policy means it has a rapidly aging population. On the other side, India is on the verge of a full-blown youth explosion. This single contrast could literally define the next 50 years. Now, this is what economists get really excited about. They call it the demographic dividend. Just think about it. 1 billion people ready to work, to build, to invent, to consume. In a world where most major economies are actually worried about shrinking workforces, this is a massive, massive advantage. But, and trust me, it's a big but, potential is just that, potential. And here is the catch. 1 billion workers are only an asset if they have the skills for the jobs of the future. As the Indian politician Shashi Tharoor puts it so bluntly, the IT services model that really powered India's rise, the one based on having lots of smart, cheap labor, is becoming obsolete in the age of AI and automation. This isn't just a small problem, it's a direct threat to that whole demographic dream. So, how do these countries actually plan to create those jobs and drive all that growth? Well, let's pop the hood and look at their economic engines. They are running on fundamentally different blueprints, and each one has some serious horsepower, but also some critical design flaws. You can think of India's economy as this vast internal combustion engine. Almost 70% of its power comes from its own people, buying things, using services. This huge domestic market acts like a giant shock absorber, which makes India surprisingly resilient when the global economy gets rocky. It's an economy that is really, truly powered from within. China's engine? Well, that's a whole different beast. It's a state capitalist leviathan. The government basically directs the entire economy through these massive state-owned enterprises, or SOEs. And these aren't just companies, they're instruments of national strategy. That number you see, over 4.6 trillion won, that's about 640 billion US dollars in profit in a single year. That's these giants executing Beijing's grand vision for everything from bridges to AI. But here's the thing. Both of these powerful engines are starting to sputter a bit. In China, that top-down control creates massive inefficiency. The SOEs act like these giant capital sponges, just sucking up resources that could be going to more dynamic private companies. And for India, the big threat is automation. Its famous service sector is now incredibly vulnerable, with AI threatening millions of jobs in IT and outsourcing. Right. So economics never happens in a vacuum. This competition between India and China is playing out on a giant global chessboard. And right now, all the pieces are moving in some really dramatic and unpredictable ways. The most important phrase in global business today might just be China plus one. For decades, the logic was simple. If you wanted to make something, you made it in China. But the pandemic, trade wars, all that stuff taught the world a very painful lesson. Never, ever put all your eggs in one manufacturing basket. So now, every major CEO is desperately looking for that plus one. And look, this isn't some academic theory. It's happening right now as we speak. Companies are actively de-risking, moving their critical supply chains out of China. They're spreading out all across Asia, looking for stable, reliable partners. This great reshuffle is probably the single biggest economic opportunity of our lifetime, and India is trying to position itself right in the center of it.
And you have to say, India is playing its cards masterfully. It's positioning itself as the West's go-to friendshoring partner. It's beefing up security alliances like the Quad, signing major new trade deals, and, this is key, it's cleverly maintaining its strategic autonomy, which lets it do business with pretty much everyone. It's making itself the logical choice, the undeniable plus one.
So, after looking at the people, the economic models, the global game, where does that leave us? What can we conclude? Well, this isn't a simple story of one country rising and another one falling. It's really a tale of two giants on two very, very different tracks. So let's just put it all side by side. This is the tale of the tape. China has the overwhelming scale and a powerful state-led model, but it's wrestling with an aging workforce and some really deep inefficiencies. India, on the other hand, has the wind of demography at its back and a resilient domestic market, but it is in an absolute race against time to create enough quality jobs and to upskill its youth. See, the contest isn't about who is bigger today. It's about whose model is more sustainable for tomorrow. And it would be a huge mistake to just count China out. This quote here captures the uncertainty perfectly. Yeah, its state-owned giants might look inefficient today, but could they evolve and adapt into new tech dynamos? Absolutely. It's still touch and go. The dragon isn't dead. It's just facing a completely different kind of fight. So really, this is the story. It isn't about one nation just overtaking another tomorrow. It's a classic clash of scale versus momentum. China has the massive, entrenched lead, but all the forward momentum, from demographics to geopolitics, it all seems to be with India. So the real question, the one we'll leave you with, is this. Looking ahead, whose path is truly more sustainable? That is the real economic race.